was involved in World War I? There were 16 countries involved in the World War I. Austria-Hungary, Britain, Brazil, Belgium, Bulgaria, China, France, Germany Empire, Greece, Italy, Japan, Liberia, Montenegro, Ottoman Empire, Portugal, Romania, Russia, Serbia, and the USA. The United States got involved on World War I, May 7, 1915. The U.S. got involved because there was a British ship called the Lusitania that was sunk by a German submarine with over 100 Americans on the ship. During World War I, Europe loosely made alliances. In 1882, the Triple Alliance was created. This included Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Italy. In 1907, the Triple Entente was created. This included France, Great Britain, and Russia. What led to World War I? Militarism. Countries and empires had a rapid growth of armies during the 1900s. As well as militarism, there was nationalism. Rivalries over colonies and trade, along with the ethnic groups that did not want to become a nation. One of the biggest things that led to World War I was the murder of Franz Ferdinand. He went into Serbia territory and the Serbians murdered him. And that is when Austria and Germany declared World War I.
Well, I done got bombed.
Last but not least, World War I was declared on July 28th of 1914.
Changes in warfare during World War I. It was split up into the Western Front and the Eastern Front. It was where men dug into the grounds and hid from the armies that were shooting machine guns and bombs. This went very slowly, and the men had no sleep and no fresh food to eat. It was really smelly and damp, and many illnesses were beginning. Overall, it caused many deaths and changed many lives in the war, too. Airplane warfare was much more involved than the trench warfare. Airplanes were newly made and used as weapons to drop bombs and other ammunition onto the ground. This created the Air Force. Warfare was a huge change to the war. Supposedly, the U.S. was attacked by the Germans, and this caused the U.S. to go into war with Germany. New technologies and how it impacted warfare. For masses to protect themselves from the poison gases. Gases were introduced by the Germans but used by both sides. Some gases caused blindness or severe blisters or death by choking. Guns were more advanced and used to shooting ammunition out onto the field. Tanks could cross in many types of fields for battle. Submarines were introduced by the Germans. They were used as weapons to shoot torpedoes and underwater missiles on guests and ships. Airplanes were used to drop bombs and shoot across others from the sky. New technologies did not speed up the war at the time, but it made a huge impact in losing many lives in the war, which was very effectively.
Citizen support. Propaganda, one-sided information designed to persuade to keep moral and support for the war. Many goods in short supply governments turned to rationing. Women replaced men in factories, office, and shops. Women built tanks and munitions, plowed fields, plowed streets, and ran hospitals. They also kept troops supplied with food, clothing, and weapons. How did the war end? Germany had formally surrendered on November 11, 1918, and all nations had agreed to stop fighting while the terms of peace were negotiated. Okay, done.
Results of war. What were the results of war? Treaties and organizations. Many treaties were signed during World War I, and the most... I just got some gun shed there. Many treaties were signed during World War I. The most popular out of these treaties was the Treaty of Versailles. The Treaty of Versailles was signed between the Allied powers and Germany. The Treaty of Versailles required Germany to compensate for the issues of the losses of the Allied nations by conceding territory and paying reparations. World War I was also created many alliances and organizations. One of the alliances being the Triple Entente, which ended a rivalry between Britain and France. Another organization was the Triple Alliance, created from France, Britain, and Russia, which promised mutual support in case of Russian attack.
No mutual support!
The League of Nations! By Wilson's 14 points, League of Nations was created. It's an international association their goal was to create peace. This treaty punished Germany very harsh. They took away mostly everything that Germany had that they did, and they punished them with they told them to pay this, and they took away their territory, their military, their supplies, and everything until Germany was able to get peace back.
The aftermath of World War I. Boy, it is hot out here. After the war, many new nations were created. The former empire, Austria-Hungary, formed new nations, Austria, Hungary, Czechoslovakia, and Yugoslavia. Also, the Ottoman Turks had to give up much of their land to Asia. After World War I, there were also reparations. Each of the defeated powers had to make payments in either cash or kind. The biggest reparations to be paid were from Germany, which were forced to pay 132 billion gold marks, which took them years to pay off. And that is it, folks. Here is our group response.
Our group response. We think nationalism was worth fighting a world war. It brought alliances and enemies. Lots of countries in Europe, including the U.S., sacrificed lots of their effort to the World War I. Nationalism did have some issues because of nations. They were competing for many things, trade, land, etc. It made things intense and brought up the war.
It helped to bring in advancement of new technologies. Also, it helped to solve issues that were going on in trying to make peace. It helped to get the U.S. and other countries involved. Nationalism was worth fighting a World War. Without it, we wouldn't have some of these rights that were being fought in the war.
I'm Mr. Wolf, and I approve this message.
Bloopers and have funny.
Wait, so you want me to
No, you